What makes a good owner? What makes a bad owner?
90% of the time, you are going to upset 90% of your fan base.
Visibility and constantly addressing the fan base is a must.
Spending does not equal success. Good decision makers equal success.
What happens wrong right at the top that then slowly starts to take apart a football club?
Shubham, you said they spent. Whose money did the Glazers spend? Not a single penny from their own pockets. How atrocious is that? Yeah, they play live FIFA Ultimate Team.
Yeah. That's my FIFA strategy. Yeah. Just find the best ratings on each position and put them together.
91, 92, 91, 92, 91, 92.
That's it. Yeah.
That is PSG strategy.
Hey guys, welcome back to All About Sports, the podcast, a podcast for the fans, by the fans. It's been a while now since all four of us got together. It's been a while since we recorded and released an episode. I guess if I am roughly right, then it's almost been a year. A lot of things have changed in the last 1 year, but one thing that remains constant is our passion and commitment to coming up with unfiltered content for the channel. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. And I guess we kick off season 3 with something very interesting that's been happening. Obviously, the Man United saga, the owner saga, has been going on for quite a while. So we guys decided to discuss today about what makes a good owner, what makes a bad owner, examples of some good owners, and how their presence into buying a club has really inspired or changed things around the club. And at the same time, when new owners have come in, how that has messed up a club which was historically doing well. And then I guess towards the end, we'll just try and summarize what our thoughts are. To start off with, we obviously have Krishnan, Gui, Mazhar, and myself, all of us back. And I'll come to you, Krishnan, first. What are your thoughts? Take it away. What are your thoughts? I guess perhaps let's touch upon a little bit what it means to be a good owner, and what would you think some relevant examples?
Yeah, I think this is one of those really tricky situations. And in every article I was reading about this, at least one person said there's almost no perfect answer. And 90% of the time, you are going to upset 90% of your fan base in pretty much every situation. But I'll start off with what I think the two very basic things that are essential. Number one is the desire to be willing to spend. I think we've seen consistently over the history of football, basketball, whatever sport that we've watched, if there is an owner that is just in there to kind of take money out of the club and not necessarily invest in the club, it's very difficult in the long run to be a super successful club. I'm not going to go into the whole Manchester United situation because I feel like we have two people who are experts on the situation, and I don't think I can even get like 10% of that. But I'll even give an example of something like Dortmund. I mean, no one would argue that Dortmund is an unsuccessful club, but the way in which Dortmund is kind of run, which is not, I know it's not like private ownership, but the way in which Dortmund is run to be a kind of self-sustaining unit, but won't necessarily push itself to be much more than what it currently is, and somewhat intentionally. We've seen this in basketball as well. The only second thing I'll bring up is you have to have some amount of love for football. Any owner that doesn't have a love for football and doesn't have a strong desire to grow their team fundamentally will just run it as a financial operation, which in the end, like, runs things to the ground. What we've historically seen is even if the owner doesn't have maybe much love for the club, or maybe he's not that passionate, I think the example may be Arsenal's case of Stan Kroenke. I mean, he's probably a passionate Arsenal fan, but even if you're not passionate, as long as you're able to instill someone or install someone who is passionate at your end, I think a big reason for the transformation that Arsenal's had in the recent years is Stan Kroenke now assigning his son, Josh Kroenke, is that right, Gui? Is that his name?
Yep.
Yes. Which honestly someone else told me about. Installing him to be kind of in charge of football has kind of led to a lot of the turnaround that Arsenal's had, because there's an owner who's genuinely now, or at least a part of the ownership team, that is very, very passionate about Arsenal and very passionate about the footballing side. I mean, we've seen that with like the passion that we saw from like Leicester City's ownership. We've seen that from Roman Abramovich, right? Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with Roman Abramovich that might be controversial and might break off some of the other good pillars of ownership. But fundamentally, he had a love for Chelsea Football Club, right? When you talk about debt for Chelsea, he basically wrote off all of the debt that they had when he sold the club. All of the debt, even before that, was completely interest-free. There was a strong passion for Chelsea Football Club. There was a desire to grow Chelsea Football Club. It wasn't, obviously, he was hoping for it to be an investment that at the end of the day got him in more cash than it cost him. but he had a love for football. So yeah, I'll start off with just those two big pillars I think are kind of key to any good owner.
Mazhar, your take?
Interesting examples, and I'm going to move off of what Krishnan said. I think just what he said is very true. Spending is a huge factor, but we have seen in the past as well that sometimes it's not just success that makes teams thrive. We've seen it with Leicester, even though they were relegated, the fan base stayed true to them. There was a lot of unity still within that team. Yes, the ownership had to change hands after that, and that was a call taken by King Power. That's different. But what I'm trying to say is essentially it comes down to passion. And football, especially in England, if since we're going to majorly focus on English football right now, given that the examples seem to be all leaning towards that, I would say that passion is the key. All fans expect is the owners to show that they care. That is all that they want, and I think that makes that a hallmark for success, regardless on the pitch, off the pitch. The reason Christian, I like the fact that you brought up Dortmund because I mean the German structure is different, right? With the 50-50 system of fan ownership plus then whoever you bring in as the other owners. Also, Germany is a bit different because they have intentionally created a Bayern Munich to work and dominate so that they can have a stranglehold on European football. Now, those are other things that we can get into, and that's a lot to do with Rummenigge and so on and so forth. But I think the key factors are definitely, apart from the passion, is to read the room. It's as simple as that. Like, don't go posting things about a particular incident when your team has lost. Those small things really trigger fans. So, like when United lost a game, next post we saw was throwback to this day when Rooney scored a goal. And I was like, yeah, okay. But we just lost. We got battered and bruised badly to X team. I'm just using this as an example. It's happened. It's happened on multiple occasions. I'm sure Shubham, you've noticed that as well. It is a hallmark of failure from a club's end to not understand what your market is, to not understand what the fans want and how the fans feel. So that resonating factor needs to be there. Another thing is talking about good ownership is giving the experts, the ones who know football, the ones who understand how things work, the responsibilities, right? Krishnan, like you just briefly touched upon as well. I'm going to use Red Bull as an example. What are they? They're essentially a complete corporate business entity trying to make profits. They have two very successful teams playing European football at the highest level on a regular basis. Look at where Leipzig have reached. Look at Salzburg. People are, I mean, that's where Haaland came from at the end of the day, right? When you look at that. Look at what Girona are doing. City Football Group's investments are so smart and they're buying good players because, of course, it comes back to spending. But the thing is, they've hired the right people to do that. United spent $1 billion plus, whereas it got us nowhere. So spending does not equal success. Good decision makers equal success. As soon as Edu came into Arsenal, we saw a massive difference. I wouldn't even credit Arteta as much as I would Edu, because United have seen top managers come and go, but it's led to nothing. So it's definitely that the higher ups need to be involved and know what they are doing to run a successful club. So that's why ownership is so important. And I'm going to go back to this example. And Shubham, you and I had spoken about this. I remember in our previous pod when there was the entire outrage around the Super League being created and all of that. What we had highlighted and touched upon was that you can hire whoever you want, but if they don't understand anything, like even a normal company, right? You hire certain employees, and if they can't function properly, it doesn't matter if you pay them 6 digits, it doesn't matter if you pay them 7 digits. If they don't fit the role, then what's the point? You can't hire an art student to run a doctor's clinic, right? It's obvious. So it's as simple as that. So I think passion, and secondly, just good business decision making are basically keys. Sports organizations are businesses at the end of the day, especially with the commercialization of it.
I think those are interesting points you made, and Gui, I'll come to you with it. So Mazhar mentioned passion, and I remember he also mentioned saying that it's important for the owners to show that they care. So you as a football fan, obviously you all have also had an up and down sort of a ride with your owners. What do you think should an owner do to really show that he cares? And the second thing that Mazhar mentioned was obviously having a strategy, right? Like knowing who are the right people to do the job correctly. If perhaps you can expand on that point a little bit by giving us an example of any club that you think has got the strategy spot on and has really managed to build from there.
So coming to the second one first, because I think it's more of a point based answer like this. It's a factual answer, right? As opposed to the caring aspect, which where my emotions will kind of run amok, and then one of you will probably have to rein me in, right? So now here's the thing: Arsenal are a prime example. Mazhar said it right when Edu came in. It was a stark shift. Like we were prior to that, there were super agents on the kind of like quote unquote, let's operate for Arsenal and find like rather place some of our big players at Arsenal Football Club, which kind of soothes the fans a little also and lines our pockets enough, right? Like there were there were people who were, I mean, let's not drop names because just avoid, right? But two or three super agents who were actively,
Oh,
presenting their players, right, to Arsenal Football Club, and a sporting director, quote unquote, who was also operating in that angle, with that angle. Like let me have a portfolio of players presented to me, and from there we go about picking. As opposed to Edu, one of Edu's first pickups was Martinelli from the Brazilian fourth division. Like, that's kind of outlook like that's the out that's telling you the outlook of the sporting director. Like he is not here to hire basis what is being offered. He's out there to go and look. He wants to be here so that he can have a field of options which he has created for the manager, as opposed to as opposed to someone else just feeding information, which is how you would want to operate versus how you should operate, right? It's about how you put down on a map, like let's this is point one, but point one, if your number one step is incorrect, or not incorrect, but kind of it's an intermediate step to kind of just pacify everyone so that everyone's on board with the project, all right, but that's not going to give you long term results in terms of having a sustainable way of running a football club and having happy fans, so to speak, because that's not going to lead to like long right now. Also after the change, Arsenal have won, I think, community shields, right? Came close to winning the league back in Europe after 7 years. That's not that's not a result in terms of a league win, right? But yet just see the difference in the fan base. I mean, it's the Emirates has been called a library over the last 4 or 5 years, as opposed to the last 2 years the fans are singing out loud. Like it's different. That's what you do when you are actively looking after the club. I mean, Krishna has a wimpy mic.
sorry. If this is any evidence of like this being a long time since we've recorded, I can't figure out the mute button on this mic. So I'm constantly looking at the mute button. I'm sorry. Anyway, sorry for the sidetrack.
And coming to Manu's first question about how an owner is supposed to demonstrate that he cares, right? Mm, Being coming to games is just one aspect. Like you could come to games and sit there as a spectator, but I mean, it does make a difference. But is that all? I don't think so. Like it, first of all, it makes a huge difference, right? Visibility is one thing, and I think it's a must. If Josh Kroenke doesn't turn up to the games even after doing so many things, you don't really know he's involved or he's part of sort of the rejig, right? So you one is visibility. Second is constantly addressing your fans. By constantly, I mean once every 3 months, have an event, have a press release, a video press release, maybe that also helps, right? So that you know that there is a, a vision which is dictated from the top in terms of high involvement. Like, or of course, the vision would be dictated from the top, but how involved are you in terms of making that decision? I remember it was the end of the season in which Arteta took over, I think, where Josh Kroenke basically had an interview at sort of the end of the season with the Arsenal media team, which kind of, be excited for what's to come. I mean, of course, a lot of fans used it for going the other way. Like, okay, is this what you were supposed to be excited for? But then eventually, you start to believe that this is what he had in mind. But yes, visibility and constantly addressing the fan base is a must. Is the least you could do, right? I mean, how does the chairman of a company not address the employees? I'm not to say the fans are employees, but they are the most vested in terms of football club. They have the most vested interest. One loss and my 7 days are ruined till I actually have to watch another game.
Yeah, I guess those are some good points that you make in terms of what the strategy should be and how invested an owner should be. I would say, according to me, perhaps hard for me to say, but I would say since 2008, what the Abu Dhabi uh, king or ruler, or whoever he is, who owns Man City, has done for the club, I think it's pretty cool. I think he's done a fantastic job, not just in terms of strategy, investment. Although in terms of visibility, I believe he's come just twice. One was when they won the first Premier League, and then was for the Champions League game. So I don't think he's been that in the public eye, but clearly he's done a lot of stuff.
So
Mazhar wants.
Shubham, just to add to that, yeah, just to add to that, there's a reason why he stopped coming, because he in fact got hate for appearing.
Oh, really?
Because they,
Okay.
yeah, so there were people who said that, like, he just gave the money, but he wasn't like influential in doing anything, and he's hired the right people to do the job. So why is he stealing the limelight? People had
Got it.
raised that, and eventually he was like, I'm not doing this. The Sheikh was like, I'm not doing this for that. I'm doing it. It's my hobby. It's like investing in a football club and making them successful is fun for me. It's like he's playing chess with real life pieces. So, so
Imagine having a
it was
hobby so good where your team wins the treble and is perhaps one of the most dominant teams in Premier League
it's
post
that's what I'm
Fergie.
saying. The Arabs are great businessmen at the end of the day, like no doubt. So it was a calculated decision to not turn up for these things as well. So I'm just saying that it's the agendas, and he's navigated that beautifully and hired the right people. Everything's great.
Yeah, no, I feel just coming back and on what the City group are doing, I think that's fantastic. And perhaps, not that I know too much about it, but whatever I've read, it's quite a case study in terms of the different clubs that they've bought in different parts of the world and how they have this entire City group and the plan and the vision, which is obviously it starts right at the top. So I guess that's a good example of having an owner who's passionate, has strategy in place, and picks and chooses the right talent to run important departments and decision making. But then on the flip side, you obviously have owners who don't know what they're doing, owners who are completely lost. I believe before Liverpool's current owners in 2007, they were bought by I don't know, I don't remember who it was, but in 3 years the club was almost in administration. So that's obviously not very nice. United, since 2005 up until now, the debt has been growing, more than £1 billion in debt. The owners have spent money, but at the same time, removing money from the club. Financially, we are in a mess. I'm sure there must be many more clubs like this. But I guess I'll come back to you, Krishnan. Start off with what do you think is wrong with some of the owners in terms of, if you want to take an example of United or any club of your choosing, where do you think things start falling out of order, and why do you think it slowly starts to crumble down? Like, what happens wrong right at the top that then slowly starts to take apart a football club?
I think I'll start off with like clubs that have gotten completely destroyed. I think that the best examples of clubs that have gotten completely destroyed is typically one of two things. There's a well-intentioned owner and a badly intentioned owner. The badly intentioned owner is pretty easy, right? You have like the example of, this is the club that I know everyone's pissed about hearing about, but I have to mention it. I do watch the show, Wrexham, which I know no one gives a shit about because they hear so much about this goddamn team because of Ryan Reynolds. But Wrexham historically is a club where I think it was in the 2000s. They had an owner that basically had their eye on the race course. They wanted their stadium to build up their own private real estate property. So they ended up finding a way to push the fans and the club out of the stadium, with the hope of eventually selling it to his own real estate company to build a property on that land. Fortunately enough, obviously, the court case went against him. So the easy example is the badly intentioned owner. I think the Glazers, you can go into the same bucket of, buying the club on debt, increasing the debt over a period of time, taking dividends. Similar, badly intentioned owners who, in the long term, only give a shit about their own profit and will basically run the club into the ground in the long term. The second one is honestly, I think, the tougher situation, which is a well-intentioned owner. A well-intentioned owner who just doesn't know how to spend their money. I think we've seen a bunch of examples of this. I've heard it's called the Todd Boehly syndrome for the last 6 or 7 months. But it's basically the owner who's like, I'm going to buy a bunch of shit. Like, I have a bunch of money. I'm going to spend it, but there's no direction to it. I think everyone would agree Chelsea has been like this. To some extent, you would maybe even say United's been like this. I think a lot of people might argue PSG has been like this. There isn't a clear direction that the club is going in. It's just spending money without good logic. And I think in defense of owners, a lot of this comes down to, do you have the right football director in place? So you could shit on United because it took so long to even get a football director. But other clubs, I think it's just a matter of, have you gotten the right guy? You guys both mentioned kind of Edu's role in transforming Arsenal in the recent years. I forgot the name of the Man City director, but they also have phenomenal. I think Chichi
Yeah.
something.
He was
He was signed just before Pep
basically
joined the club or something.
Yeah. He was Pep's guy anyway. So
Yeah.
he worked with Tito, and then he was manager of one of the clubs in the MLS before he switched over.
So I feel like something like that makes such a huge difference, but I do understand that it's not necessarily an owner not caring about the club. It's more just the owner has not maybe brought in the right football minds. And I think the only time in which that goes wrong is when a owner has way too much personal stake in the game. Like, they want to sign a player similar to I think the one thing that Sheikh Mansour does a phenomenal job about is staying out of the operation of the club. Like, he is installed, I think we've talked about this, and I just can't talk enough about how well Man City is run in terms of they have hired the right people. The owner is involved in what the owner needs to be involved in. He has I forgot the representative who he has on board at Manchester City to keep an eye on things. But there isn't this oh, I really love Andrei Shevchenko, I'm going to go and randomly sign Andrei Shevchenko. There's no that personal involvement in decision making that overrides decisions of the football minds doesn't really exist. And I want to quickly shout out, I think a club that is going to do the same thing, and we are going to see do the same thing in the next few years, is Newcastle United. I think so many people, when Newcastle took over, had the concern of when Newcastle gets taken over, they're just going to, they're going to sign Haaland. They're going to look to just, try and sign Pep Guardiola the moment his Man City contract is up. They have been so sensible in the way in which they have grown this club. They have logically increased it. They've gotten a very sensible manager in Eddie Howe. I'm not saying this is the manager that's going to take them to the Premier League. Maybe not, probably won't be the manager that wins them a Premier League, but it's a great stepping stone. They brought in the technical director from Brighton, who's done an insanely good job at rebuilding Brighton in the last 4 years. It's just really smart, sensible signings and not going too big too fast, which I think they deserve so much credit for. And I think the last example I'll give of a group that has done the reverse was again another club that we know from the Premier League, which is Leeds. Not badly intentioned, just took out a shit ton of debt in the early 2000s with the hope that their team wins the Premier League, with the hope that the team wins the Champions League. None of that happens, and the team completely capitulates, right? They had to sell all their best players, kind of the reason why Rio Ferdinand joined Manchester United.
Yeah.
Completely capitulated, dropped many, I think 2 rungs definitely dropped out of the Premier League, but I don't know if they dropped even one more round. So I think it basically goes down to two cases of disasters. Badly intentioned owners who just steal from the club, well-intentioned owners who just are willing to spend but don't know how to spend.
Mazhar, I think the topic that we touched upon is perfect to perhaps even highlight a little bit about what's happening in United and how there has been a gradual decline since the Glazers took over, and especially considering in the last few weeks the recent developments. I guess we could perhaps cover all of that by just coming over to you. So take it away. Let's go back in 2005 and
Oh,
bring us to 2023.
I've been waiting for this rant. I'm so prepared. Maz, Malu, just fucking. Oh,
So
Where do
I have a cold, so I won't be able to listen to this like well enough. I'm going to just
where do I begin, Shubham? Like, I'm tired. I'm tired. I've never in my life not wanted to watch a United game. Never. Even in the most disaster of times which we've had ever since Fergie has left, there's
Yep.
never been a time where I have been like, fuck this. I'm not gonna watch this game. Never. This season, I've watched 2 games. That's it. I am I am so tired because there's nothing that I'm seeing. There's every time I watch the highlights, there's nothing to see. It's the same thing again and again and again and again and again. And it all comes from and it all stems from the ownership. Especially, I've been supporting United since 1998. The first thing that I saw was United versus Arsenal. And funny enough, actually Arsenal were playing better. And then I was told, yeah, but it was a draw anyway. Arsenal still didn't win.
actually sounds
But
about right.
but what I was told was that, like, since that day, I was told that, they are the best team. You should support them. Never looked back ever since. I know we were spoiled under Fergie's reign. And Shubham, you and I are very fortunate that we've seen United win it all, right? Unfortunately, it I'm telling you, you and I could have lived without the success for another 10 years as well. But when you know we are failing purely because of the ownership, because there are leeches in this club who haven't done anything to solve the problems in the stadium. Shubham, literally, I was in the Stratford end. The leaky roof was falling on our heads. It was literally still leaking. How atrocious is that? We've been complaining about this since 2000, since Fergie's time. In fact,
As a matter of fact,
nothing has
even the
changed.
comments that Ronaldo made on Piers Morgan's show that the training facilities have not changed since the time he left, and I believe he left like in what 2013 or something like that,
2009.
2008, 2009.
2009.
So and he came back in 2000 what 21. So in 12 years, no changes, no upgrades to the training facilities.
Shubham, you said they spent. Whose money did the Glazers spend? Ticket sales, jersey sales, and everything else that the United fans have pumped into the club. Not a single penny from their own pockets, which is also fine. But the disrespect, the unwillingness to come out and address anything, the clear indifference and ignorance when media approaches them to not address anything and be like, to hell with you, what can you do? You can't do anything about it. We don't give a fuck. You deal with it. What will you do to us? Kill us? It's come to that. And there's a reason why this band has been on my hand for so many years now. It doesn't come off. It's made me start hating to watch the team that literally, like we said, makes our week, makes our year. It's our mood. Our football club is more than that. And we are Indians sitting here in a different continent, so passionate about it, right? I don't get my mood off as much as when United lose, as when India loses, as when United lose. It's really like some things can't be explained. So you can go on and on and on, but ownership is crucial. And I know people will say, oh, when Fergie was there, this happened and they still succeeded. No, David Gill was there. That's why it succeeded. After David Gill also retired and left along with Fergie, we didn't even sign a good football director. We put a finance guy in charge of making decisions about which players we'll bring in. Ed Woodward, the guy doesn't even know how to spell football. Genuinely, it's a joke. It's as simple as that. You don't hire the right people. You've not put in any effort in trying to improve the biggest sports property in the world. And this is what triggers me the most. He went and bought Tom Brady for his team, for the Pirates or whatever the fuck their team is called.
Buccaneers, yeah, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's a pirate logo, so that's why. They went and bought Tom Brady. They won the fucking Super Bowl. They turn up and come, and they have the audacity to come and pick up the trophy as well over there. They had the audacity to come to the FA Cup final as well this time. For what? And he was sitting next to Fergie. So I mean, I don't know. I'll just go on, like you said, Shubham, a rant. I know I didn't even end up answering your question, but I think the emotions speak volumes about what bad ownership can do. And Shubham, obviously, you can give your perspective as well.
Yeah, I guess I'll just quickly summarize Mazhar's emotions with some, I guess, facts and numbers to put it in perspective for non-United fans. So I guess United was bought in 2005, roughly around 750 million pounds, out of which 250 was put in by the Glazers. The rest was leveraged buyout. So the debt went on United at an interest rate, which has gradually grown. And I guess United has a debt of over a billion. I don't know if it's pounds, dollars, but clearly a large sum of money. There's been no money invested in the club by the Glazers, but the regular dividends taken out, no upgrades in the training facilities. Old Trafford is a leaky place to be. The club has
Literally, Shubham, literally a
yeah,
leaky place to be.
absolutely. It is in gradual decline. And to be very honest, like I read an article that the credit cards have been maxed out. We just desperately need investment to take the club forward, or even to have like a decent training facility, or to have better infrastructure in terms of Old Trafford. Which honestly, if the club was run well, the fact that it's such a well-oiled machine and generating revenue, I don't think we would be in the situation. I think United, being one of the biggest clubs in the world, would have enough money to take care of itself and would not need to be in a situation where you need to be floated on the stock exchange, or you need 25% like of your club to be sold so that you get in fresh money. And the questions are, with this fresh money coming in, if it comes in at all, how is it spent? Will it be taken out by the Glazers? Will it be used to clear debt? Will it be used for development? There's just lack of clarity, and there is no real relationship with the fans, which obviously highlights the fact that perhaps they don't care. There's no strategy, there's no relationship, and money is just not being used well. Hopefully that summarizes the situation with United. And Krishnan, there's something I think you want to add.
I was going to say, not to pile on to the misery, but I completely feel exactly like what y'all said. Maz, like how you said, I'd never take off that band. They've completely leveraged the fact that they have maybe one of the most loyal fan bases globally, and they've made use of it. Just to add a couple of things to what you were saying, Malu, I didn't know this, but like reading up recently, I found out United is the only Premier League club to pay its owners shareholder dividends. Only Premier League club, and have paid out 166 million in dividends since 2016. They have paid 743 million just in interest payments on the loans that the Glazers took over. And the interest payments that they've paid over the last 12 years alone is 3 times as much as any other Premier League club, nearly accounting for the combined total of every other Premier League club, which is 536. So totally they paid 743 million. In the last 12 years, it's 517 million pounds. The total of every other Premier League club combined in the last 12 years is 536 million. It is.
I guess that's sort of like validates my point, right? That had the money been used well, 715 million in interest payments would have definitely taken care of Old Trafford, got us a better roof, perhaps upgraded the stadium, maybe some training facilities as well. So it's just complete mismanagement. So coming to you, Gui, I guess we've obviously had discussions about good ownership, bad ownership, and we've spoken about examples. But to summarize the episode, what would you say? A few points that, according to you, are essential for a good owner. A few points to look out for in terms of what a bad owner could perhaps look like, or the profile could look like. And after that, I would extend this question to Krishnan, yourself, and Mazhar. Please chime in with your thoughts. And let's close out the episode by just getting an understanding of what the two owners look like.
So I'll just go with one, which is, I think, which sorts out most of the issues and the decent aspects of a good owner. It's just knowing when you're out of depth. You have to be able to address the fact that I cannot do everything. let's just pull in the best possible people who can run the club. Like find that. I mean, when you're making a starting 11, you're not looking for just 11 individuals who do outperform everyone else, right? You're
That
looking
is PSG's recruiting strategy, yeah, Gui. Don't
and
please
and
say no
They're
and
offense
playing,
first.
yeah, they play live FIFA Ultimate Team.
Yeah. That's my FIFA strategy. Yeah. Just find the best ratings on each position and put them together.
91, 92, 91, 92, 91, 92.
That's it. Yeah.
And then, and the best thing I do in FIFA is even if the person's rating is like I will make my formation basis my highest rated players. It's not vice versa. So I won't play 4-5-1 or anything. If my highest rated player, if I have two strikers who are 91, 91, I'll play 4-4-2. Or I'll play some like fullback as winger if I have to, so that I can accommodate the other 90 player also. That is PSG strategy.
and it works only on FIFA, right? So
It doesn't even work in that GUI. I lose in that also.
so I just think once you understand that you have to build a well-oiled unit, it's like an organization, right? I mean, the organization is built to compete on a weekly basis. That's the difference, right? What's the gap between, say, a large MNC and a football club? One is vested interest by people who are not working there. It's just purely like fan emotions is not the same as employee emotions, right? But the idea behind a well-functioning unit is that as the leader, you make the right team, and I think that probably makes most of the difference. Which will sort out, I mean, eventually, like, okay, visibility, addressing fans, important in terms of maintaining the connect with the fan base, yes. But in terms, I mean, you could do those things and have a shit result, and it's not going to help. That's what I think.
Imagine, just because Gui mentioned this, imagine if employees at an MNC had the passion of fans of a football club. Today I'm going to make the best Excel sheet. I will send the most amount of emails today. I'll do the most phone calls today.
Be a
That would be
goddamn shit show. I think it's better to be more apathetic. I think that's better, actually, weirdly.
but,
No,
but but
no,
anyway,
but
coming back to the topic and expanding to Maza and Krishnan, your thoughts as well, please.
yeah, so I think fans are not employees, but they're definitely the biggest stakeholders, right? At the end of the day, the sales and satisfaction and everything comes because of the fans. The only reason football is so commercial is the fans' passions, right? So fans drive everything. And at the end of the day, if you are failing to satisfy your fan base, you failed at everything as an owner. Don't get me wrong, even when United were winning, we weren't happy with the ownership at any point. It was never that, oh, thanks to the Glazers, we won. It was always Fergie. Thanks to Fergie, and thanks to Fergie imbibing that winning culture into the club. And then us just historically knowing how to win and all of that. So the culture is so important. There were many people who were still always anti-Glazers. There were protests back then also. I know we don't remember it, but they were there. They want as mass scale as they have become, and like so much so that we managed to cancel Liverpool, the biggest game of the season for us, and got it pushed. And then anyway, what happened is a different issue. But the fact that we were able to push that game just shows the power of a fan base. But you can't do anything when it comes to ownership, because at the end of the day, it's a company, and especially United are listed, right? So when you look at that, there's so much that is wrong in terms that can go wrong with badly run organizations. And I mean, you can, and that transcends any industry. So why sports shouldn't be treated differently? It, United is such a big case study that there are the new rule now that the Premier League has passed or the FA has passed is no more leverage buyouts, right? Now you cannot buy a club on a leverage buyout basis. So that is the hallmark of showing what bad ownership can do. And as for good ownership, it's sad, but I mean, City Football Group have done a phenomenal job. Mumbai City FC playing well in the Asian Cup qualifiers as well. And putting us on the map in some way and sense as well. Girona challenging the likes of Madrid, the Madrid teams and Barcelona now. That speaks volumes of how successful they have become as well, and how well they are doing in terms of their ownership structure. We know, of course, Red Bull has been doing a great job as well. I think that those two for me are the benchmark, and that's how it should be. It should be that, especially if you have the resources and the money, invest it in sensible things. Because the returns, I know sports organizations are typically not profit makers, but they are huge cash cows if you get it right. Like, look at the size of United. If you get it right with United, you're going to make money for years and you won't have to work another day of your life. If the Glazers had thought about it like that and understood soccer, then it would have been different. But they don't. And that's the fact of the matter.
And I think a great point to that, Maz, is you look at teams like, I know that we've already mentioned this before, but like a team like Brighton, the value of that team has grown massively in the last 4 years. So it's not even just like the owner has helped them from a football perspective. The financial gains he's going to reap if he ends up selling this club this year versus 4 years ago is insanely high. So in the long run, it does pay out. And one might argue, if United sells at this point, one of the big issues is the Glazers want way more than anyone is willing to pay because of the debt that this team has. Like, they've created a situation where not just have they run the football side poorly, they've not even done the best thing they could do in terms of selling the club. Yes, they're doing great in terms of day-to-day, like they make money consistently. So and I think that's kind of their logic, is like, as long as we own the club, we'll make money consistently, even if we don't maybe maximize the amount we make at the time of sale, because they just seem to be holding on forever. But I think there's really nothing to add. I think as long as you're not doing something shady or illegal, like taking something out of the club, as long as you have a passion for football, and as long as you have a willingness to willingness and an ability to spend, I do think, to give credit to fans, there is a little bit of leeway on the fourth most important point that everyone has said, which is hiring the right people. Like, that is the tough thing and the toughest one. But I feel like if you're good on the first three fronts, fans are willing to give you a little bit of leeway to figure it out. I actually think Tottenham is an example of that, where, like, I'm not saying everyone's happy with being a Tottenham fan, but they at least see, like, our club is trying. They have built a new stadium. They are trying different things. Admittedly, it's not worked, but at least the club is trying to change things. They maybe have not gotten the right individuals, but they're testing, they're trying, they're pushing. It's not like they're just sitting on their laurels and collecting checks. So I think, to give credit to fans have patience, as long as the owner is not doing things that are, I think, pretty blatantly either shady or wrong. Generally, I would say.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for all your thoughts. And yeah, I guess that pretty much summarizes what a good owner could perhaps do, and how out could be amazing for any football club. And actually, what is not just about a football club, considering the fact that at least in England, football is a passion for a lot of people. It slowly becomes a community thing, and then you start building legacy. And then also, if you don't have the right owners in place, how things can quickly spiral out of control. So thank you for all your thoughts. To all our viewers or listeners, please like, share, comment, subscribe, comment below, and let us know what y'all would like for us to discuss when we come around the next time. And thank you for tuning in. See you guys.
If you like this episode, make sure to leave a like and share it with anyone else who might be interested. You can also subscribe on any social media platform that you prefer, and all our links are in the bio. We also have a website with all our episodes, as well as blogs and a whole lot of other sports content, so make sure to check that out as well.